Hey everybody, Alex Miller at Capnion here. Now this is the third installment in my Thursday miniseries event. I'm going to talk about API-centric trends as I had before, and this week I'm going to focus on fintech and open banking. And I think banking stuff is the easiest to construct nightmare scenarios around, given that that's where most people keep their money. So I'm going to start to segue in this episode to talking about computer security things that are relevant in this area, and we'll eventually get into talking about our product Ghost PII. Okay, so I can talk from personal experience, actually. I had a fintech adventure that I think fits our narrative really well. First, just let me recap. I've got this 80-20 simplistic definition. An API is just a very simple web application that you go to do a familiar web handshake to get data. And the point is that if you do it right, everybody else already knows how to plug into it, and you can get hooked up with a lot of people building apps really fast. And this is great if you're a business trying to provide more services to the consumer in a hurry. Okay, so I'm opening a brokerage account the other day. You may have had this experience. You want to transfer money from your bank to the brokerage account. Maybe in the past you would do a wire transfer, or you would put in a lot of specific information about your bank, like your routing number, account number. They now have these widgets, and the one I ran into the other day was made by a company called Plaid, where you just put in the login info you use to get in touch with your bank. And then they do a handshake with the bank, and they get all those big awful numbers, and you don't have to scream at your computer because you had your numlock off and you put it in wrong, or Lord knows. It's actually quite convenient when it works well. I had a good time using it in this case. I don't know Plaid's business, but Plaid is almost certainly doing this via some sort of API. And the way it works is Plaid puts out this API that is about doing a handshake with banks, and they do it in some kind of standardized way, so it's easy for the bank to hook in with Plaid, and then it's easy for the developer at the brokerage to hook in with Plaid. So maybe all these different companies have Lord knows what going on with the back end of all the data and what they have moving on, particularly the bank. But if everybody sets up this API, which once again is just, I'm going to say, just a standard way of exposing data on the web, this is really easy, and that the people building these apps are going to do very standard stuff they do over and over again all day. Making it easier for them makes it easier for the consumer. Making it easier for the consumer translates into better outcomes for these businesses. So this is all about reducing friction. Let me know if you've seen something like this before, and especially if you're affiliated with Plaid and I've got it wrong, but I think I've got it vaguely right. For the record, I have no affiliation with Plaid. Okay, so if any of you follow trends in venture finance, there's a big rush towards API security right now. What's this rush towards API security about? Well, I had this very convenient experience plugging a broker into my bank. Isn't that great? A problem with convenience is that getting rid of friction tends to make you a little bit more vulnerable on the security front, in that friction is something that maybe slows everybody down. You get a little bit of a bonus that it slows criminals down too, and you might catch them while they're getting frustrated by your old database backend. So the other side of the sword of we can adopt this standardized web-oriented architecture to get these apps out better and faster is we need to be really sure that this data that we are, in a sense, hastening to expose for consumers to use is appropriately protected so only the right consumers use it. And it's not super hard to see this viscerally when you're setting one of these things up, because you're giving them a lot of the information that you use to get into your bank account if you're banking online. And that's about as sensitive as these things get for a lot of people. So to recap, open banking is really the idea of, well, if we can expose these APIs with this data, we can get more apps out there faster. I could have been mad at my bank. I could have been mad at my brokerage in this process. It was pretty nice. the open banking angle maybe made it pretty nice for them to get out of me, and everybody's have a good time. And then, the next phase of this story is, well, what can we say about how to make such things secure? Because friction is not necessarily the enemy, the friend of security, but it's not really the enemy either. And I'll get more into these computer security angles as I continue to talk about these API centric trends next Thursday. I hope to see you then.